God's story, scene 1.
The Genesis.
Or, help God, we messed up already.
In the beginning, there was God, and God spoke, and there was light. Over the course of 7 days, God created all things, the earth, the animals, the fish, the entire universe, and finally, a man created to be like himself.
Not bad.
But God saw that the man was lonely, and so woman was created to be his companion.
Not bad.
Everything was perfect. God had provided the man and woman everything they needed, and they were in a relationship with him just as he had planned, until one day...
Hey, girlfriend.
Who, me?
No, I'm talking to the other only woman on the whole planet. Yes, you.
Oh, what's up?
Well, it's just that you and that guy you hang out with a lot seem to have it pretty good around here, you know? But I noticed that you never eat from this tree here. What's up with that?
Oh, well, God has just given us one rule, and that's that we can't eat from that one tree. He said if we do, we'll die.
Oh, please. For eating a piece of fruit, you won't die. Are you telling me that you've got the run of the whole world here, but you're scared to eat from one little tree?
I'm not scared. I'm just...
I
am not chicken. What?
So prove it.
Fine, I will.
Hey, Eve, what you doing? Oh, man, I'm starved. Let me have some of that. No!
They had broken the one rule that God had given, and as a result, messed up a perfect relationship with the perfect God. They were banished from the Garden of Eden and had to spend their days laboring for the food that had once been provided for them. Time passed, and Adam and Eve had 2 sons. Abel was a shepherd.
Howdy.
And Cain was a farmer.
Yeehaw!
Hoo-hee, my herds have been so nice and fat and healthy like lately, and I've just got God to thank for that. I think I'm gonna make him an offering to my best sheep. Yep, that's sure to please him.
Yeah. I just love being a farmer. Man, my crops are really great. Thanks, God. I love working out in the hot sun all day long. I guess I'll give him some of my crops as an offering, too. What are you two looking at? Huh? I ain't gonna give him my best stuff, please.
God was pleased with Abel's sincere offering of his best sheep, but Cain, well, not so much.
What?
God said to Cain, "Why are you so angry? You need to get control of that stuff before it leads you to sin."
I ain't angry. Ugh. Forget that noise. Hey, Abel, over here. Let me show you this one thing back here real fast.
Well, one thing.
This one thing in the field.
And so Cain killed Abel, and the first murder had been committed. From then on, things didn't get much better. Man continued to get more and more evil and grow further and further apart from God. And that relationship that God once had with his people, his very reason for creating them, was long gone. So God decided to start over. He brought on a huge flood on the earth, destroying everyone in the world except one man's family, whom he shut into a boat with 2 of every animal.
They were just wishing they were dead from the smell.
Noah's family was saved from the flood, and they got busy repopulating the earth.
Bow chicka bow now.
Scene 2, the promise. Time passed, and even though God had shown with the flood that he meant business, most people ignored him and continued to sin. But a few people really tried to follow him. One such person was a man named Abraham.
Abraham!
What? Who's talking to me?
It is me, God.
Hoi! I can't believe it. God is talking to me. Why do you honor me like this? What have I done?
You have obeyed me, and so I make a promise to you. I will give you more descendants than the stars in the sky. I will make a nation of people out of you, and they will be my people.
Wow, God, this is wonderful, but where am I gonna put all these people? I only have this 1-bedroom apartment, and it's very
I will give you a land
small.
of your own. I will show you a wonderful land that I will give to your descendants. You will defeat all those who live in this land if you obey me. It will be a land flowing with milk and honey.
Wow.
Now go!
And so the promise was made, a promise that would show God's faithfulness time and again, even though it would be a while before it actually happened. Time passed, and Abraham and Sarah gave birth to a son. God came to Abraham and told him to sacrifice Isaac to him as a test. Abraham was just about to go through with it when an angel stopped him.
Abraham, you don't have to do this. God just wanted to test your obedience. You passed.
Gosh, Dad, you're so embarrassing.
More time passed, and Isaac had kids of his own, 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob and Esau had an argument over a trick that Jacob played on Esau. Fearing for his life, Jacob ran away to a place called Haran. Jacob eventually had 12 sons of his own, one of whom was named Joseph. The story of Joseph and his brothers is kind of well known, so we'll kind of fast forward through this part. Jacob loved Joseph the most and gave him a special colored coat. The brothers hated Joseph and sold him into slavery. Joseph worked for a guy named Potiphar, but got thrown into prison when Potiphar's wife hit on him. Pharaoh was disturbed by some weird dreams and heard of a guy in prison who could interpret dreams. Joseph told Pharaoh that his dreams meant there was a famine coming throughout Egypt, and in 7 years there would be no food. Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of Egypt, and Joseph stockpiled food for the time of the famine, saving Egypt. Joseph's whole family joined Joseph in Egypt during the famine. Years passed, and Joseph's family got larger and larger. This is where God's promise to Abraham began to come true. Eventually, Joseph died, but his family kept getting larger and larger. A new Pharaoh came into power who didn't remember Joseph or liked the fact that all those Israelites were in Egypt. He enslaved them all, but they just kept on multiplying until there were about 2 million of them. The Pharaoh decided to put an end to the Israelites once and for all. He decreed that any Hebrew boys born during that time would be put to death. It was at this time that Moses was born.
Ta-da!
Scene 3, the Exodus, or enter Moses, exit us.
Sounds good.
You get it? Exit us. Okay. It was at this time that Moses was born. It was at this time Moses was born.
Oh, sorry.
It was at this time that Moses was born.
Hi, I'm Moses. Okay, so here's the deal. I grew up as a prince and then killed a man, kind of accidentally on purpose. Who's counting? And then out of fear, I fled to Midian.
Welcome to Midian, land of mystery and adventure, and the finest merchandise this side of the Red Sea. May I interest you maybe with some fruit or not?
No thanks.
Oh.
So, I'm in Midian, I get married, become a shepherd, and then God speaks to me through a burning bush, and he says, you must go back to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let all the Israelites go.
Moses, you've got to be joking.
So, here I am.
I will never release your people.
God will bring his power on you.
And to make a long story short,
Too late.
he did.
Let the plagues begin. Blood in the Nile.
Frogs! Ribbit, ribbit.
Flies.
Gnats.
Dead livestock. P.U.
Boils.
Hail!
Locust!
Darkness.
And finally, the death of every firstborn son in Egypt.
Israelites, if we put the blood of a perfect lamb on our doorposts, the angel of death will pass over us when this plague kills all the firstborn sons.
And God did, but
My son is dead. Go, Moses. Take your people and leave.
Woo! 430 years of slavery gotta get the rest of the Israelites. Israelites, come on, guys. Hurry, we gotta go before Pharaoh changes his mind. Let's go.
And everything was going great.
We're following the leader, the leader, the leader. We're following the Moses wherever I will go.
About the first
Tina.
5 minutes.
Kitty,
Moses, why'd you take us this way? The Red Sea's blocking our escape, and Pharaoh changed his mind and is chasing down after us. I wish I was back in Egypt.
I wish I never followed you.
I wish I was dead.
enough whining.
And so God allowed Moses to part the Red Sea.
Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Whoop!
Leading the Israelites through on dry ground. But the Egyptians were destroyed as the water filled back in. Over the next year, many things happened as the Israelites wandered in the desert toward the land that God had promised Abraham, the place that had been come to known as the Promised Land. God gave them the 10 Commandments to obey,
Here they are.
which they immediately began disobeying.
Oi.
They complained that they were hungry,
We're hungry.
so God gave them manna, which fell from the sky.
Ooh.
They complained that they were thirsty,
We're thirsty.
so God gave them water from a rock. They got sick of manna,
We don't like manna.
so God provided them quails to eat.
Tastes like chicken.
This is how it went for the year that it took to get to the Promised Land. The Israelites were disobedient and whiny, and God continued to forgive and provide until at last they arrived at the Promised Land.
The Promised Land. God has promised us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey.
Does it have to be milk? I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Quiet, you two! Hi. I have sent spies out into the land to tell us what we will find there.
Oh, that sounds great. When
I'm
is it-
back.
Well, what did you find?
There's already a lot of groups living there.
What?
Yeah, and they're huge.
What?
Yeah, and I think they're gonna make dangerous enemies.
Aw, that's just great.
We never get anything we want.
I wish I was back in Egypt.
I wish I never followed you. I wish I was dead.
Quiet!
I need to yell.
God has brought us out of slavery, and you complained. God has fed us manna from heaven, and you complained. God has brought us into the Promised Land and told us we will defeat all the enemies here, and yet you still complain and don't believe. What is wrong with you?
And so God, who led the Israelites to the Promised Land, punished them. They were forced to wander the desert for the next 40 years. None of those who saw God's wonders in Egypt ever got to see the Promised Land,
Oh, man.
Told you so.
including Moses.
Oh, man.
To make a long story short,
Too late.
40 years passed. Scene 4, wandering in the desert.
Or stop. I got sand in my boot.
Moses died, and God chose a new leader for the Israelites named Joshua.
Hi. Hey there.
Joshua was humble
Oh. Hi there.
and led the Israelites well. At last, it was time to re-enter the Promised Land. Joshua led the Israelites into the Promised Land. At this time, they were ready to trust God and do this whole thing His way.
All right. Listen up, Israelites. What? Hey, pay attention. Listen up. All right, there are some people in this land who will try and stop us from moving in. So,
Didn't we make a reservation?
oh, pay attention. Listen up. Okay, so if we obey God, then we will defeat them. But if we disobey, then we're gonna have trouble.
And that was the way it worked. When they obeyed God and did things His way, nobody could stop them.
Yay!
But when they let sin into the picture and disobeyed God, even the wimpiest of enemies beat them. And in this way, they eventually took over most of the land of Canaan, the Promised Land. When they